Former President Donald Trump made big changes to US trade policy. One of his biggest moves was putting tariffs on goods from other countries. This caused a lot of uncertainty in the global economy. Many Asian countries rely heavily on trade with the United States. They had to find ways to deal with these new tariffs. In this essay, we'll look at how 4 countries, India, Thailand, South Korea, and Vietnam, are handling this tricky situation. These countries all have different things they're good at selling. They also have different relationships with the US. This means the tariffs affect them in different ways. Some countries are trying to make deals with the US to avoid the tariffs. Others are looking for new trading partners. It's a complicated situation with no easy answers. Let's dive in and see how each country is trying to protect its economy. We'll look at what they're doing right now and what they might do in the future. The global economy is always changing, and these countries are learning to adapt. India is a huge country with a fast-growing economy. The United States is India's biggest customer for their exports. In fact, almost 1/5 of everything India sells to the world goes to the US. This is a big deal for India. It means that what happens in the US economy directly affects India's economy. So what are these important Indian exports that could be at risk? Well, India sells a lot of machinery, gems, textiles, vehicles, and chemicals to the US. These are all things that American businesses and consumers need, but with the new tariffs, these products could become more expensive for Americans. This means they might buy less, which would hurt Indian businesses. India knows it needs to find a solution. They've been talking to the US about ways to reduce the impact of the tariffs. One idea is for India to buy more products from the US. This could include things like American defense equipment and energy. Another idea is to make it easier for American companies to do business in India. This might mean lowering taxes or making it easier to get land. India is working hard to protect its trade relationship with the US. Like India, Thailand also relies heavily on trade with the United States. In fact, a significant portion of Thailand's economy depends on selling goods to the US. However, some of their most important industries are now at risk because of the tariffs. One of the biggest concerns for Thailand is agriculture. They're a major exporter of agricultural products, especially to the US. These products include things like rice, fruits, and seafood. Higher tariffs on these goods could make it much harder for Thai farmers and businesses to compete in the US market. South Korea, on the other hand, is in a slightly better position than some of its neighbors. This is because they signed a free trade agreement, or FTA, with the US back in 2012. This agreement means that many South Korean goods can enter the US without any tariffs. This gives them a big advantage over countries that don't have FTAs. However, there are still some risks for South Korea. The FTA doesn't cover everything. For example, the US could still decide to put tariffs on South Korean cars or steel. If that happens, it could hurt these important South Korean industries. Vietnam is another country that has been closely watching the trade situation between the US and China. Vietnam has become a popular alternative for businesses looking to move their manufacturing out of China. This is because Vietnam has lower labor costs and a growing manufacturing sector. One of the challenges for Vietnam is that its economy is heavily reliant on exports. They sell a lot of goods to the US, including electronics, clothing, and footwear. While Vietnam generally has lower tariffs than some other countries, there are some areas where the tariffs are quite high. These tariff gaps exist in sectors like electronics, which is a major industry for Vietnam. The US has been putting pressure on Vietnam to reduce its trade surplus with the US. They want Vietnam to buy more American products like agricultural goods and energy. Vietnam is trying to balance its trade relationship with both the US and China. They don't want to upset either country, as both are important economic partners.